Ladies and gentlemen, in the first 6 months of this year, overcoming the post-pandemic difficulties, the challenges of overvaluing price, we also have good sides of the economy. The indicators of each sector show a very positive economic recovery. In particular, the province tourism industry, after a difficult time, has had the opportunity to make a spectacular breakthrough with the broad momentum and economic recovery in the first 6 months. It will require a solid response for the province economy in the last 6 months to maintain its growth momentum. However, the current price of many essential commodities such as gasoline, fertilizer, and the rise of construction materials will be difficult and challenging. This requires the government to have a more rapid intervention, business and unit to be ready for plan and make effort to overcome difficulties to complete the set targets of the year plan.
In 6 months, in addition to difficulties caused by the epidemic, we also have to face inflation and rising prices affecting the economy, production, investment in basic construction, and people's life. The province has attempted to keep inflation at the lowest level, remove difficulties for businesses, maintain control gradually pushed by the epidemic. The solutions which will continue to prevent and control the epidemic and promote economic recovery have been implemented drastically from the provincial to the grassroots departments, helping to almost comprehensively restore the socio-economic situation. The province's economic growth reached 5.2%. Industrial production also had an increase compared to the same period last year. The index of industrial production was estimated to increase by nearly 8% over the same period, in which the processing and manufacturing industry increased by 7.82%. Production and distribution industry of electricity, gas, hot water, steam and air conditioning increased by over 10%, and water supply, waste and wastewater treatment and management activities increased by over 8%. The output of most of major industry on increase. Import and export turnover achieved high growth over the same period. Export turnover reached $3.2 billion, reaching nearly 60% of the plan, up nearly 18% over the same period. Import turnover reached $3 billion, reaching nearly 62% of the plan, up 16% over the same period. Imported goods were mainly concentrated in the role of import materials for production. This is a positive sign for the production activities of 2022 in both domestic and foreign enterprises. Staple agricultural production, the activity of service and trade has been gradually restored. The commodity market and people's life have been also gradually stabilized. Retail points, distribution system, restaurants, hotels, food and beverage shops all have reopened. Sales establishments apply both face-to-face and online forms at the same time, so the total retail sales of goods and service revenue increased rapidly. Total retail sales of goods and service revenue was estimated at over 47,000 billion Vietnam dong, up 11% over the same period. Of this, retail sales of goods were nearly 38,000 billion Vietnam dong, up more than 10% over the same period. Types of transport such as buses, taxis, contracted vehicles, and fixed route vehicles have operated normally to meet the travel needs of the people. Revenue from transportation services, warehousing and transportation support services reached nearly 2,000 billion Vietnam dong, up nearly 34% over the same period. Total state budget revenue was estimated at more than 5,700 billion Vietnam dong, reaching over 57% of the estimate. Total capital of social development investment was estimated at nearly 16,000 billion Vietnam dong, reaching over 45% of the plan, up 7.8% over the same period. The economic picture of Tay Ninh has many bright colors. In the districts, towns and cities, enterprises came into production more stably and also had more prosperity in budget revenue. At present, the pandemic has not completely ended, but it is basically controlled. conditions for reoperation of production and business establishments and enterprises in the area have a good trend. The situation is very stable, tends to develop better than before. Thus, we expect the economy of Oyo District as well as Tay Ninh Province to develop. The local authorities will create good conditions for businesses in line with our function and task. One of the economic sectors with the most impressive recovery and growth momentum in the province was tourism. Immediately after the epidemic situation in the province was under control, after piloting a safe tour, Tay Ninh became an attractive name for domestic tourists. The tourism industry was growing rapidly and spectacularly. In just 6 months, Tay Ninh welcomed more than 3.3 million visitors at tourist sites and attractions, an increase of over 124% over the same period, 7.4% compared to the plan. Total tourism revenue was 180 billion Vietnam dong, reaching nearly 68% of the plan, increasing by over 54% over the same period.
Trong cái 6 tháng đầu năm thì chúng ta cũng thấy là ngoài cái dịch bệnh thì
in the first 6 months of the year, we see that in addition to the epidemic, the country and our province also have to face inflation, prices, fuel and import materials, and in the coming time, the price of materials and goods will increase, greatly affecting the economic recovery, production of enterprises, investment in basic construction, and people's life. However, we have also tried to control inflation as reasonably as possible, and that's the good side that we see. And from the factors, it contributes to the economy not only recovery but having a good growth rate. Gross product of manufacturing industry, GDP of the province in the first 6 months of the year reached 5.22%. Thus, compared in the southern key economic region consisting of 8 provinces and cities, we are ranked the 4th place. Especially, it must be said that the tourism industry has been recovered strongly, and the growth is spectacular. Perhaps Tay Ninh tourism is at the top of the country in terms of growth, but in terms of arrivals and revenue, it shows that our tourism potentials is already huge and clear. Thus, the province and localities with tourism potentials must be determined by all means to remove difficulties to promote stronger growth. By 2030, it strives to become a spearhead economic sector, contributing 10% of GDP.
Đến năm 2030 đó, trở thành ngành kinh tế mũi nhọn, có đóng góp vào GDP 10%.
Tay Ninh is drastically removing difficulties for big goods. The provincial leaders continuously track the progress of the construction of key public works in the localities right from the beginning of the year. Through direct inspection, a number of reasons for the slow disbursement of public investment capital were pointed out, related to problems in site clearance, investment preparation, and project implementation, which face the limitation in both the investor and the construction contractor, along with the objective reasons due to the increase in the price of construction materials, input materials, and extreme weather that have slowed down the construction progress and disbursement. From determining the cost, the leaders of the Provincial People's Committee has given directions for each department, branch, district, town, city, and each project to remove difficulties and strive to complete the goal of disbursing 100% public investment capital by December 31st, 2022. By the end of May, the province has disbursed over 1,300 billion Vietnam dong, reaching over 36% of the plan assigned by the Prime Minister, reaching over 31% of the plan assigned by the Provincial People's Council. Until the socio-economic situation shows changes and recovery of production and business. In the first 6 months of 2022, however, the Tay Ninh Provincial People's Committee also recognized that there have been still many difficulties and challenges to overcome. Further on, the COVID-19 epidemic continues to evolve unpredictably, with new strains spreading faster, increasing the risk of an outbreak again. Vaccination against COVID-19 needs to be implemented effectively and widely throughout the population. Notably, it was the solution to speed up the disbursement of public investment capital for interested projects to create a driving force for economic growth. The Provincial People's Committee has directed its department, district, town, and city. The Department of Planning and Investment suggests that the Provincial People's Committee should withdraw the projects that in the first 6 months of the year they have not been disbursed under 10% so far, then transfer to another project. Considering the situation in the last 6 months of the year, the Provincial People's Committee pointed out what must be done drastically to keep the economy developing. Special attention is paid to the drastic and effective implementation of the socio-economic development and recovery program, the national target program, the projects on the development of high-tech agricultural areas, a number of key transport infrastructure projects, especially the limitations in state management of land, increasing disbursement of public investment capital. Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Ngọc, Chairman of the People's Committee of the Ninh Province, directed districts, towns, cities, and departments should pay attention to breakthrough programs that have not achieved high results, continue to implement epidemic prevention control, do not let neglect and lack vigilance, continue to promote administrative reform, pay attention to social security. Localities continue to check poor households and difficult households to prevent people from being hungry, especially strengthen the fight against crime, improve discipline in the performance of official duties. It should pay attention to removing difficulties, creating conditions for all economic sectors to overcome difficulties, restore and boost production and business, then generate revenue for the budget and create jobs. This is the responsibilities of the localities to take care of this issue. This year, all of you need to stick to businesses so that we can say, so this year, all of you need to save money for holiday and trade activities. In addition, it should also pay attention to propose solutions to remove difficulties so that we can perform well the compensation and clearance. Of course, the work is extremely difficult, but if we find it difficult and stop, there will be no progress. Any locality that has the key investment projects placed on it by the province, you must feel honored for the development of the locality and must promote propaganda so that the people also feel honored for it, especially non-profit public investment projects. This must be conveyed to the people to understand that they serve the public and improve people's life. In the coming time, the Provincial Party Committee will have a 6-month assessment and thematic discussion on bottlenecks, solutions to solve them and policy mechanisms, so you can research so that we can have solutions to thoroughly handle these bottlenecks in the fields of investment, land construction planning, and it is recommended to strictly implement the planning and carry out procedures related to the transfer and receipt of land use rights for agricultural and rice-growing land. In the groups of solutions and key tasks in the last 6 months of the year, the province effectively deploys the implementation plan of the government's resolution number 11 dated January 30, 2022 on the program on socio-economic recovery and development and implementation of resolution number 43 of the National Assembly on fiscal and monetary policies to support the program. Implements the program to support 2% interest from the state budget of 40,000 billion Vietnam dong to support the recovery and development of production and business activities, promote the driving force of growth, prioritize a number of important industry and fields for customers who are enterprise, corporates, and business households according to Decree number 31 dated May 20, 2022 of the government and Circular number 3 dated May 20, 2022 by the State Bank of Vietnam. reviews and removes barriers and obstacles hindering production and business activities, promotes administrative reform, improves business investment environment, creates favorable conditions for businesses and people. The province will submit to the Prime Minister for approval of the planning of the province for the 2021-2030 period, with a vision to 2050, accelerate the progress of compensation and site clearance work, closely coordinate with relevant units to promptly handle problems and difficulties of investors related to land rights appraisal process, compensation plan, promptly remove difficulties and obstacles, especially key projects, accelerates the disbursement of public investment capital for each project, ensuring the completion of the goal by the end of 2022, reaching 100% of the assigned public investment capital plan. Monitor and closely follow the developments of the construction materials market to promptly update, adjust, and announce the price of construction materials, the construction price index, according to the market price level, to remove obstacles for key projects, strictly handle acts of speculation, price rising, and pressure.
Ladies and gentlemen, and now the duration of program wraps up now. Thanks for your attention and goodbye for now.